Stone Cold Killer, right? There's no reaction from him. Anyway, guys, take it away. It's Hoej versus RDU.
Thank you so much, Lothar. So, what are we seeing here, Firebat? This is the N'Zoth
Reno Lock. Yeah, and it's up against the Tempo Mage from RDU. The kind of surprisingly interesting deck of his lineup that he absolutely loves, and he has no hesitation when he just runs up and tells you about how amazing this deck is.
The best deck in his career.
That's what he keeps calling it. The greatest accomplishment of him creating the best deck for the format, and it's been performing up to what he's been saying, so he's not wrong.
Yeah, he's not wrong so far. And
so far.
It hasn't been banned, and he's opening with it as well. He feels like, I can just 3-0 with the deck again. And on the other hand, we have this Reno Lock from Hoej, and before Hoej was surprised that his Reno Lock is not banned. Like, this deck was supposedly performing for him really well as well. What do you think? N'Zoth version of the deck and just Leroy without N'Zoth? It can still have Leroy.
Yeah, he can still have Leroy. He could be running the N'Zoth and Leroy combo version. Yeah. Or he could be running just the N'Zoth version. I'm not totally sure which version he's playing, but typically speaking, Hoej likes to play, all of it. He likes to usually play the N'Zoth package and the Leroy package and just have like a lot of win conditions and a lot of potential to kind of cheese out victories and win the game. And this is a deck Hoij's been playing for many months, honestly, the Reno Lock, and he's really sort of perfected it. He's the type of player, I'd say, that's more about perfecting things than expanding his range more often.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't say like he is a big deck builder. It's more about like finding a deck and fine-tuning it until it's perfect. And,
that's what he loves to do. Yeah.
So here we have Power Overwhelming, interesting choice, Mortal Coil to provide you with some draw. You're playing versus Tempo Mage, so what are you going to take here? With PO, you'll be able to answer some card, but like Coil is also good if to draw cards. Oh, he's going for the Post Villager to have more board pressure, I believe.
Yeah, just sticky minions makes a lot of sense. The PO is really good when you have things to trade up into, but then you just think about the curve of the Tempo Mage. What is there really to trade up into?
Yeah, same with like Mortal Coil, like whatever he plays, you still kill it with the Dark Peddler.
Yeah, there's not too many 1-health minions. There's actually just one, right? The Blood Mage Thalnos. So I can understand not jumping for the Mortal Coil and instead just kind of getting the minion presence out there, something, fight for the board a little bit. Both players taking their time a bit here. You can definitely feel the tension a little bit.
Yeah, they need to focus on their game, but let's evaluate the hands a bit. So what do you think about the RDU's opening hand? It seems very decent, actually.
Very decent, but at the same time, none of these plays look appealing to just kind of throw out there into a 2-2. A lot of these cards you want to get more resources out of than that, so we see him just throwing out the Blood Mage Thalnos to cycle instead of just kind of jumping one of those 3-2s out there that would just die to the 2-2 from Hoej.
Hey, Coil wouldn't be that bad there.
Yeah, Coil would have worked out really good for him, but it's not something you can expect. And if you look at the grand scheme of things, all of the minions in the Mage deck, one dies to Coil. So what are the odds that he's going to have it? It turns out pretty good, but it's not necessarily true.
Yeah, so even though he has like a lot of cards in his hand, he has Flamewaker, Coin, Arcane Missiles, and Mana Worm as well. He got blocked a bit in the beginning, at least. But looking at this matchup, what does it look like? It seems like if Tempo Mage gets a perfect hand, he'll be able to kill Reno Lock before he gets Reno. Yeah. But if it doesn't, if the game goes slow, it should favor the Reno Lock because he will be having some kind of board and then and have the combo as well. Or does it favor actually the Flamewaker Mage?
I feel like it kind of favors the Flamewaker Mage even when they don't have the greatest start in the world, because we see here RDU's hand building up to that big giant swing turn that's going to happen eventually, and then most of the time with Tempo Mage, I feel like you can get such a giant board presence that the Reno Lock kind of has to decide, all right, am I going to Reno or am I going to answer the board presence? Yeah. And if they answer the board presence, sometimes the fireballs come in and finish out the game, and if they go with the Reno, then they get a bunch of heal, and they're taking such a big backlash from the board that actually the heal sometimes isn't enough. So I like RDU's position here a lot. I really like just going with the Mana Worm Ping, being super patient with the Flamewaker, trying to get that giant explosive board swing.
Yeah, definitely. It's something that a lot of players like who play Tempo Mage for the first time don't understand, that in this match it's not about just throwing all the cards from your hand. Sometimes just accumulate as much as you can, draw with Arcane Intellect, and then just make this one big turn.
Yeah. Here, though, he's running out of time, really. He might have to be even, like, if he wants to buy extra turns and be more patient, he may consider even using the Fireball here just to remove the 3-5, be more patient with his resources. Because what are the odds that really the Flamewaker gets the job done here? If he goes Flamewaker Missiles, that's only 5 missiles. If he throws the coin in there, it's only 7 missiles. So the odds of him actually being able to remove the 3/5 here are pretty limited, and you don't create that big of a board. So in my mind, one of the better options is like coin Azure Drake, but it gets kind of shut down by that the villager sticking around to be able to offer the remaining damage for the 3/5 to be able to trade in.
It seems much better to just fireball, and then you have options for the next turn. You can either Azure Drake or even coin the faceless summoner to have 2 minion support. And how afraid are you of AoEs from Warlock? There is not that many. There is Twisting Nether, Doomsayer, also Shadow Flame, and Hellfire. But what are the key turns? Like, if you go faceless summoner next turn, are you afraid of any of those AoEs, or are you like, sure?
Depends what's on the board, right? If there's something big on the board that can be Shadow Flamed, you'll fear Shadow Flame. But most of the time, faceless summoner is pretty all right around most AoEs. The Hellfire can be kind of disconcerting because you can expect the 3-drop to be that's summoned off faceless summoner to die to Hellfire, but also your opponent would then lose their board, and they spend their entire turn doing it, and that's the really important factor. If they spend their entire turn using the AoE, and they're only killing 1 card, even though it's 2 minions, it's still only 1 card.
Yeah.
Then you just reload with another card, and you've traded 1 for 1 and regained the tempo, so you feel fine.
And there is a couple of really great minions you can get from Faceless Summoner. Let's say King Mukla, or
yeah, there you go.
3/5 Taunt from Warlock, right? So there is like really
cool.
good stats. Really good stats.
Yeah. So I don't know if we want to see him go for it here, though. The reason being is because he has to sacrifice the coin to go for it. So he's opting to go with a different line of play here. We see him get the Cult Sorcerer out with the Flame Waker, and he's going to be using the coin to get the missiles out. And that means he is getting
5 missiles overall, right?
He gets 1 extra for the spell
1 extra
power.
for this, so 6 in total.
6 missiles. The odds of him killing the Kodo are extremely small, but he went for it anyway, figuring it was a good opportunity to take the risk. And if he kills the Kodo, this play is obviously the best possible play that turn. But
also
not killing the Kodo.
From his perspective, Kodo was actually not killing the Flame Waker.
Sure, yeah, that's true as well. There's only 1 Mortal Coil in the Reno Lock. The Peddler card has already been seen, so there needs to either be the Mortal Coil, the Argus, or an AoE card, or a Shadow Bolt. So he does have a few ways to kill the Flame Waker, so you can't really be too hopeful in expecting that it'll stick around. But if it does stick around, it's obviously amazing. So there's some risks involved in the risk of it killing the Kodo or not, because if it works out, that's amazing. And then the risk you take in the fact that if your opponent doesn't have the removal for the Flame Waker, that puts you at a huge edge. And then also the last one is, if they're removing the Kodo with Defender of Argus or an AoE, they're taking a really soft turn, which makes your Faceless Summoner even better the following turn.
Yeah, definitely. And here there is a couple of decisions. Like, you can go for Defender of Argus to be able to kill the 2/4, life up first to see what's up, and that is building up some board, and Kodo is not that damaged as well. So whatever happens, you will have the board to be able to react in the next turns.
Yeah, and RDU is going to be trying to take that board away. He has the potential to go with Faceless Summoner now, like I said, because the Argus was used to answer the Flame Waker. Just, you spent 4 mana playing a 2/3 and killing a Flame Waker, basically, which means your turn's kind of inefficient and not very strong. So if you drop the Faceless Summoner down, it's way more powerful just because of the way you forced your opponent to react. So I really like the line of play by RDU setting up for this situation for Faceless Summoner to really shine.
Definitely. And it does shine a bit. The 1/4 dealing 2 damage Demolisher is not the best you can get, but it's something. Like, it's another minion that's hard to remove. And what can you do now? Like, you cannot play Ragnaros yet. You can go for Sylvanas. Is it enough board to play Sylvanas? You should have a chance to steal the 1/4 and whatever is being played. And Sylvanas is an annoying minion on board for the mage to deal with.
Yeah, for sure. I think you definitely have enough time. Like, one of the things you got to be considering is how much damage are you sitting on? Are you afraid that, like, this face... Because the Sylvanas is most likely going to get ignored.
Yeah.
And then you have to use it on the following turn to try and recover the board a little bit. So you can almost guarantee there's 6 face damage coming in, potentially 2 more with the Catapult, making 8 face damage. And you don't have any heals as the Reno Lock player right now. So it gets a little scary not removing any of your opponent's minions. Because if RDU accumulates a bunch of damage here, suddenly you could just die out of nowhere.
Definitely. Well, you've seen one Fireball, but
Sure.
still, there's a lot of damage in that mage deck. But can you ignore Sylvanas now? Because if you just go face and ignore Sylvanas, you will not be able to play many minions.
Can you afford to kill it, though? If he goes in, he has to sacrifice his 1/4 for nothing, basically.
Yeah.
And then trade in the 5/5. So
into Sylvanas and play Azure Drake, and then you draw a card. You are able to deal with the 2/3 as well with one of the Arcane Blasts. So in a sense, you still stay ahead on board, and you don't have this occurring problem that will block your Ragnaros in turn 8.
Yeah, it's definitely a decision point, right? Because the other line is totally ignore Sylvanas, play your minions, go face. Hopefully you pile up enough damage. You go face, and you kill the Sylvanas hoping it takes the 1-4. Roll the dice on that 50-50. And if you're able to get there, then you're actually in a decent spot, maybe, like, because you've gotten in so much extra damage. You have to give up so much damage to trade off the Sylvanas, and RDU decides it's not worth it to go for the risk on the Sylvanas taking something important, and is instead just going to sacrifice, you know, the 6 potential damage to be ahead on board.
Yeah, if he feels that he's favored, oh, there's the Reno Jackson coming. Not now, but in the future it will be really great. But if RDU feels like he's favored, as you said in this matchup, then why not prolong it a bit and give yourself a bit more time, specifically because he doesn't have that much burst in hand, and he used one fireball early.
Yeah, I like the line. I think it's definitely a spot to look back on, though, that causes a huge divergence in the game for sure. And here, as Hoej, seeing that Reno Jackson, even though it's not a card you're playing this turn, it makes Ragnaros a lot more appealing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You're not afraid to die in 2 turns.
So we see him pick it up and put it back down here. He's thinking about potentially going for the Ragnaros. And I really like the Ragnaros. It's just because you have that, if it misses and goes face and the Azure Drake's still around, you have that Reno Jackson as a crutch to fall back on to maintain some healing and crawl your way back into the game. So it's not as risky as it could be.
Yeah, what else can you do? Like, you can top as well and do the Imp Gang Boss, and Doomsayer doesn't make much sense. So I think Ragnaros is like the only viable play here. And he goes for it now. Killing the minion will be better, I believe. Going for face doesn't matter that much. So a bit of a miss, but still Ragnaros is a problem for RDU, and he has to deal with it.
Now, RDU has some interesting decisions here as well. He has the ability to remove the Ragnaros with, like, Frostbolt, Arcane Blast, with the Flame Waker, or he has the ability to, you know, just go for the YOLO play.
Arcane Intellect, and then see what he gets. Yeah.
Or slam his own Ragnaros.
Also?
Yeah, just hope it hits, and that would be the most aggressive of the lines, because if your Ragnaros clears the Ragnaros,
yeah,
it's pretty good for you, but he is going to go with the Flame Waker line. Be a little bit safer, just make sure that he can kind of take care of this Ragnaros.
He has 4 guaranteed damage, and now he has 2 random damage on board. Unfortunately for him, it misses Ragnaros, and he didn't get any more spells, so playing a Mana Worm makes sense, because if he does... Will he have to trade into this Ragnaros now?
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? Is it worth trading into?
You have a couple of targets that can easily die to Ragnaros, but like then damage matters.
Damage does matter a lot, especially against Reno Lock, putting them in those awkward situations where they can't use their cards as flexibly because they're forced to play Reno.
Yeah.
That's oftentimes the way you win, but losing this Azure Drake is very painful. I'm not so sure that I really like how that turn panned out.
It is in line with his previous play to trade into Sylvanas, so he just continues
to play
trading.
super defensively, right?
Yeah.
But how defensively can you play? As his hand size is down to 3 cards, and Hoy's hand size is just massive. You have to be afraid of potentially getting outvalued if this continues, but I guess he's really leaning on his Ragnaros to do a lot of work.
Apparently, yeah. And now back to Hoej. Twisting Nether isn't that great here, but is he forced to do it?
Well,
just to clear the board. Like, Flame Waker can provide a lot of damage, and if you cannot deal with Flame Waker...
Yeah. Yeah, it's really tempting, because one of the factors that makes it so tempting is Temple Mage has a lot of spells in it. A lot of things that could be in RDU's hands, such as Fireballs, Flame Strikes.
And other Arcane Intellect into, like, small spells again.
Sure, yeah. There could be a lot of potentially not minions in his hand. So if you're able to just clean up the minions here and keep his minion count low, knowing what the deck is kind of composed of, you don't really need to get the maximum value out of Twisting Nether, so he's really debating on it. But one thing to note is Twisting Nether is one of his only real good answers in his hand to Ragnaros right now.
Definitely.
And with Sylvanas gone, and now Twisting Nether gone, RDU knows that really the only answer in Hoy's deck to the Ragnaros, since he cut BGH from his Reno Lock list, is Siphon Soul.
Well, Doomsayer is still an option
It's
in a
an
way.
answer,
Just
okay.
like, just flood the board with small minions and Doomsayer and then hope Ragnaros doesn't hit it.
True. You
And
got the Imp Gang boss that lines up with that plan.
There is an answer to Doomsayer, actually, because Flame Strike and Frostbolt will be able to answer that. But is there any reason not to slam Ragnaros right now?
I don't think so. I think after seeing the Twisting Nether, after seeing the Sylvanas, it's rag time. And RDU agrees. Hoej only has the Siphon Soul potentially in his deck to eat this up, and that 8 face damage is so powerful because you can't Reno Jackson and Siphon Soul. So
yeah,
Hoej has got to feel really scared of potentially dying. We know he's not going to die, but who knows? He may be too afraid,
Yeah, there might be Fireball and double Frostbolt, but well, you cannot really play around that. So at the moment, you just have to face this Ragnaros. It can deal 8 damage to face, but maybe you just go Reno and Doomsayer. Like you tap, you Reno, and then you Doomsayer, and hope that Ragnaros hits face. Or even if it hits Doomsayer, you will have a way to deal with the Ragnaros just POing the Reno.
Sure, yeah. Makes a lot of sense. I definitely think you want a Reno here. It's really
Yeah,
scary. Leaving a
definitely.
Ragnaros up while you're on 10 health isn't something you normally want to do. At 30 health, you can leave a Ragnaros up and feel okay. But yeah, I like the line of play. Just getting the Doomsayer out there, trying to sure up killing this Ragnaros.
And now we do have that Flame Strike open and the Frostbolt to deal with the Doomsayer, and then Ragnaros can deal with Reno or deal 8 damage to face and continue being a problem for Hoej, because it was a clear sign. I don't have Siphon Soul.
Yeah, he doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. There's one card that can beat it, and he doesn't have it. So then you see, well, he's got his natural draw, and then he's got the tap to try and fight an answer. We don't know exactly how many cards he's got left, but you got to assume it's not that high of a % chance for him to find exactly the one copy of Siphon Soul. So I respect the play of just protecting the Ragnaros and trying to put your faith in the fire.
Definitely. Fire and Ice, actually. Songs of Fire and Ice here with the Frostbolt on top of it.
Seems good.
All right, and there is one card it's in Rdu's deck that might have an impact in this game, and that's Yogg-Saron. Because the more spells we see, right?
Yeah, for sure. And we have the N'Zoth bringing back the Sylvanas to now answer the Ragnaros for Hoej. So that's another big factor about using the Reno the previous turn. It really sets him up in the ability to just play this 10 drop without having to kind of interact with the board at all.
No
'cause he
risks
feels
as
safe.
well. Yeah, definitely at 30, not even damaged. Arcane missiles don't seem that great.
Yeah.
So is Yogg-Saron the only card to come back from this situation?
Seems to be the last hope.
Oh man, this is tough. Ragnaros can still go face.
Yeah, but then if Hoej has Mortal Coil, Power Overwhelming, Shadow Flame, Shadow Bolt, there's just like so many cards that he hasn't played yet that can guarantee the Sylvanas to take the Ragnaros, and then you're expecting 8 damage to be coming back at your face. So if you put yourself at like 10 life here, you have a good chance of actually dying if the 5 damage sticks around from the N'Zoth.
Definitely. Was there any merit to like Frostbolting Sylvanas? Just
so it denies the trade?
Yeah, to deny the trade. Like, you obviously have those cards like PO and Shadow Flame, and there's a couple of ways to destroy Sylvanas, but at least she will not trade into
a minion before it gets destroyed to, like, kind of sure up the trade value there. It looks like we may be seeing, like, Power Overwhelming Shadow Flame come out just to push the damage. You're able to get in 9 with the Sylvanas, and then 1... Oh, no, Power Overwhelming Shadow Flame would kill the Reg.
Yeah, you can actually play Mountain Giant, and then... Why not just play Mountain Giant? Just go face with those 2 minions and then Shadow Flame the Giant. And play Positive Villager just to say hi.
And then leave the Sylvanas on the board to threaten the potential Yogg-Saron?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just like have minions on board. Why not? Like, just clear the board with Giant Shadow Flame.
The interesting thing about like Yogg-Saroning a Sylvanas is that if Sylvanas takes Yogg-Saron, you become the one casting the spells.
Really? That is an interaction?
Yeah, so it's a good defense mechanism against Yogg-Saron to save the Sylvanas on the field. So we do see him actually going for it, it looks like. So now, if RDU gets his last hope of Yogg-Saron...
it can get stolen.
It can get stolen. Or is he maybe just Shadow Flaming the Sylvanas, setting up lethal? Yeah, he goes for this route too. This one's pretty good. You can't deny that this is also a really good play. Able to push that 8 damage immediately and have the Giant on the field to follow it up.
Definitely, yeah. Very strong play as well. All right, if it's not Yogg-Saron, this is over. And
it might not be over, though.
You think like you can just, well...
He does die to Power Overwhelming Jiraxis at the end of this sequence. Unless he maybe freezes the Giant and then the Rag... No, then the Rag's guaranteed to go face. Yeah. So it is it for RDU, but he's thinking the best way to take these final actions to try and sure up another chance at finding Yogg-Saron.
Yeah, with this hand, he's not that on board, at least.
And not that on board, for sure.
Yeah, but from our perspective, knowing the cards, this will be over, but definitely needs to think about it.
But yeah, it's interesting about like preserving the Sylvanas there to potentially steal the Yogg-Saron and start getting the spells cast for you.
Definitely.
Because it is interesting. Sometimes you get like Avenging Wrath or Call of the Huffers and things like that casted for you, and
you just attack into Misha there if it survives, and then steal the Huffer, go face, stuff like that. Especially if you're ahead. But like taking Ragnaros is definitely a good play as well.
Yeah, is definitely not bad to get a Ragnaros and immediately fire it at your opponent's face.
Yeah, and now PO on the 1-1 attack the 0-2 with Jaraxxus, and then Ragnaros goes face. Nice, seals the game. So the Tempo Mage falls down. Farbad, what do we do now? Like, this was the best deck in the tournament.
I don't know. RDU has to be a little bit shooken up, but he is a very experienced tournament player, so I don't think it's going to be too big of a deal for him having his, his favorite deck of the tournament being knocked out immediately. He still has the Shaman, he still has the Warlock, so he's got decent matchups against the Reno Lock, but not the most exceptional matchups against the Reno Lock. Reno Lock is a deck that can kind of do its thing and be effective against any deck.
Well, I believe he has a Zoo.
Yeah.
And Zoo has a good matchup versus Reno Lock.
It's got an okay matchup.
It's okay. It depends if you have Leroy or Doomguards. I believe like Leroy version is a bit better.
Yeah, Leroy version's a bit better, but still neither version is really like, it's not quite 60% in the favor.
It's like below 60, but
below 50. It's below 60, but above 55.
Wait,
it's somewhere in that.
It's a good matchup, but it has a below 50%.
No. It's above 55, below 60.
Yes,
yes,
exactly.
It's like somewhere
That's the
in that range. So he's going with the Shaman first. The Shaman's a little bit better. The Shaman's like definitely like 60 or better.
Yeah.
So the Shaman can oftentimes just get enough damage on you to just kill you outright pretty quickly, especially if you're running the N'Zoth version. The slow death rattles are very, very inefficient and ineffective against Shaman.
Is he playing like Corrupted Healbot as well in his list?
I don't think we've seen Corrupted Healbot.
We haven't seen it. We haven't seen it. But this is one of the cards that comes to mind when you think N'Zoth.
Yeah, as well as like Karen, which is really slow. And yeah, so it's not as great against Shaman as some of the other Reno Lock versions, and we saw the Power Overwhelming in there. We didn't see the Faceless or the Leroy yet, but those are cards also that come to mind as cards not very great against Shaman and don't really help you too much.
Definitely, and even if you have Reno Jackson on 6, you most likely have a board that you don't deal with because you just healed yourself. So the board keeps dealing damage, and there's this Doomhammer and Rockbiter that can just finish you off. But there are ways to win this still.
And Reno Lock has no answer in the deck really to a 7/7 on turn 4. If that comes out, you have to wait until turn 6 to be able to Siphon Soul it, to be able to kill it. Which is why originally in the Reno Lock lists, when Shaman was so popular, and for the ladder lists, oftentimes they just ran BGH in there. So they would be able to actually answer the 7/7 if it came out like on curve.
And we've even seen Hoej actually, with this deck, playing versus Shaman, and opponent played 7/7, and then another 7/7, and Hoej just couldn't do anything.
Yeah, it can happen against Reno Lock. It's really scary. The 7/7 just so powerful. Warlock just not one of the classes that can easily deal with the 7/7 so early. Like some classes have mulch, some classes have their removal. Warlock's is Corruption or Siphon Soul, and no one plays Corruption, and Siphon Soul does not come out fast enough.
Turn 6 or turn 5 with the coin is not what you want. And looking at the situation right now, RDU has a great opening with the Trog into Totem Golem, and from Hoej's perspective, Refreshment Vendor.
Yeah. And RDU right now thinking about whether or not he wants to play the second Totem Golem or just Totem to be able to get that 7/7 out earlier. Because the later he waits on this 7/7, the less useful it's going to be. It is at its prime on turn 4. So we see him Totem here. This is so he can play the 7/7 out, so he doesn't have to worry about Coin Siphon Soul coming out if he delays it by playing the Totem Golem there. So I really like the play by RDU, just knowing, yeah, the Totem Golem would be good now, but you know what's even better?
7/7 on the next turn. That cannot be answered for like 2 turns.
Yeah, exactly. It's like pretty much guaranteed 7 face damage out of that 7/7, if not more.
Yeah, absolutely great play from RDU there. So far, but do you think this is going to be the last Shaman standing match that you talked about before?
It could be. It could be. We definitely see Shaman doing a lot of great work so far. Last Shaman standing, man.
Yep. Hopefully.
It's interesting, though. The players have the opportunity to ban Shaman if they desire.
Yeah, but they don't do it because they feel like they can counter it.
Yeah, they underestimate Shaman, I feel.
Hey, man, it's easy. I just take my Shaman and counter your Shaman with my Shaman, right? It's the best way. But if you lose, then that's a problem. But yeah, Shaman in a great position here. The 7/7 is going to come down from RDU, and this board is scary. Is there any way to come back from this for Hoej?
It's going to be tough for sure. He does have the Reno Jackson, so that's going in his favor. Maybe
Giant is something. It's a bit better than Refreshment Vendor, I believe.
Is it, though? If you play the Giant, you're afraid you might die. 14 damage on the other side. And Shaman typically does damage in groups of 3.
Yeah, but you probably have to risk it now because you're in such a bad position that if you just play safe, you die in 2 turns instead of 1.
If you play Refreshment Vendor, you accomplish nothing. If you play Giant and then top deck Shadow Flame,
you still
and
die.
your opponent doesn't get any damage, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess like out of the 2 bad situations, Giant is like more of a maybe I have a chance play. Refreshment Vendor is like, hey,
Well,
I
you
guess
can
he
go
killed me in 2 turns instead of 1.
Refreshment Vendor into Coin Siphon Soul, and if he trades the 1/1 into the Taunt Totem this turn, and then trades it again and takes care of it, the Refreshment Vendor maybe kills the Tunnel Trog, and he really hopes RDU doesn't play any minions at all the next turn. He's just overloaded for 3 and just totem passes.
Yeah, just whiffs.
Yeah.
And what's gonna be, Hoej? Do you play Mounted Giant, Refreshment Vendor, or just concede this game? Because I wouldn't blame you for it. He goes for the Giant.
So he's hoping to try and find the top deck Shadow Flame.
Yeah, like basically he hopes there is nothing in the hand, and he tries to have at least a minion that's able to trade into the 7/7, whatever happens, or the Shadow Flame as you mentioned. But we know he knows he's dead.
Yeah, it's really rough to come back from that start. You know, there's no Dark Bomb anymore. You can't kill the Tunnel Trog really with anything too efficiently. You have Shadow Bolt, but that's too slow. You're 2 turns too slow with Shadow Bolt, and then if you look at the 4-mana 7/7, you don't have any way to kill that. You don't have BGH anymore, so you only have Siphon Soul, and that's also 2 turns too slow.
Yeah.
So just the way that those classes interact with Overload and with overcosted cards to make up for the strength of the Warlock hero power, it started, you know, causes that weird interaction where the Warlock's cards are just 2 turns too slow for some reason.
Absolutely, and oh man, this is what I talked about. You can't do Shaman with Shaman, and Hoej mentioned before that he really doesn't like this matchup. He thinks like this is one of the worst mirrors in the game, Shaman versus Shaman.
It's an interesting mirror. There's definitely a lot of decisions to make when it comes to overloading because of how like influential that is on tempo. And there's also a lot of crazy situations where you use Lava Burst as, you know, to try and secure up the board on things that you wouldn't normally expect to Lava Burst. So
because the board presence in the beginning is everything.
Everything.
Like, you have minions, you go face. Like the moment when you get board presence,
You win.
You win. You start going face, and then your opponent's trying to play catch up, which is basically not good
and
with the aggro Shaman.
They're playing catch up with cards that only work if you have the board, like Flame Tongue Totem.
Exactly. So if you lose the board, you're screwed.
Yeah. So the mulligans are absolutely crucial for figuring out the best way your hand works with your 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, where you integrate the coin, how you do account for your overload, all that sort of things. So we see Hoej, he has the Tunnel Trog, and I imagine he keeps the Tunnel Trog. There's question to maybe keep the Flame Tongue Totem there, but Totem Golem Pharaohs seems better, so that's pretty good for him. And,
definitely quite a good opening. And then for RDU, it seems like he mulligans most of his hand. He maybe kept abuse. Did he have abusive?
I don't think he did. I think he just mulliganed the entire hand.
Yeah, everything.
And he got back a pretty low-quality hand here. He doesn't have much going on for him. He has coin 3 into 3. If he's able to roll a Totem Golem off Tuskar, then he will probably just win the game outright.
He might be forced to go for that because right now just throwing a 2-1 into the 1-3 doesn't feel that juicy. And you might actually skip playing anything here.
I don't expect him to play the Abusive Sergeant here. He's maybe just waiting, trying to figure out the best way to order his 3-drops. If you play the Abusive Sergeant out here, what happens is the 1-3 trades into it. Now your Abusive Sergeant's dead. You don't have any way in your entire hand to deal 1 damage, but you do set up the potential to coin Horse Rider it.
And kill the
and you lose a bubble to kill a 1-1, and that doesn't feel good either.
Yeah, definitely.
He's going to go for it. I'm very curious about this.
Because Abusive Surgeon is also good like a bit later when
with
you have
the Horse Rider.
Or Horse Rider definitely to just deal a bit more damage.
It's intriguing to me.
It does require some action, so it seems like he might be going for the Argent Horse Rider play next turn. For Hoej, it seems to be obvious here. Actually, do you want to play Feral Spirit on 3 and then Totem Golem on 4?
That would smooth out his curve a little bit better to use the Rockbiter here to clear and then do exactly what you said, but it's so much weaker on the board.
It is.
And when you see your opponent open with Abusive Sergeant, you got to imagine their hand's pretty weak. So I like just jamming the Totem Golem, using the Rockbiter to clear next turn, then using Feral Spirits. And
wait, are you not playing around Horse Rider? What?
Well, I don't even know if RDU is going to go with Horse Rider this turn. Now that he's got the Flame Juggler, he could opt to go for that, but we do see the Horse Rider come out, so that's his plan to try and get rid of this Tunnel Trog. He was really hoping that maybe Hoej just has a Totem Pass turn. If Hoej has a Totem Pass turn there, then RDU would be able to get a 2-1 ahead of Hoej and be able to kill totems for free with that 2-1 and put himself in a favorable position. So it's like
a risk to take there with the Abusive Sergeant, realizing if I do nothing, I guarantee I'm behind. If I go with the Abusive Sergeant and he doesn't have a 2-drop, maybe I can pull ahead.
Yeah, and be ahead. Here, decision to make a totem and trade instead of using Wild Rock Biters. Rock Biter can be a value card to get rid of something bigger. And this is the moment of Tusker to Taming, man.
Yeah,
What are we going to get?
Is it going to decide the game?
And it's
It's not the worst, but it's not the
worst.
best
Yeah,
either.
you definitely wanted a 3-4 body, but just getting an extra card can be helpful here.
For sure. It's the second best one, most definitely.
Yeah, but now we have a great turn for Hoej, just Feral Spirits and Rock Biter to deal with the 3-2.
Well, Rockbiter or Bolt? Which one is better? When can you expend? When can you afford the overload?
So
Because
how much mana will you have next turn? So 5 you will have 3. I would prefer probably to have 3 mana next turn instead of 2.
so that you can totem and use Rockbiter or play more of the cards off the top of your deck. Yeah.
Yeah, like a Tusker Totemic I draw into. Or
Sure. Yeah, I like that a lot better. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a good time to be using the Rockbiter to remove the 3-2. Your 3-2 goes into the 0-3, and you play the Feral Spirits. Just because you want to have 3 mana next turn. Most Shaman cards in the deck cost 3 mana.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's why Rock Biter here is a bit better. And you're fine with losing a Rock Biter, even though it has great synergy with Doomhammer. Doomhammer is not a card. Like, Doomhammer and Rock Biter normally does not win the mirror.
Yeah.
This board wins the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah. This board stops Doomhammer Rockbiter.
Yeah. So, oh man, this is tough. Like, you can still go for Trog Feral Spirit to build up a good board, or just go for a 7-7, but
yeah.
7-7 is just one target, so...
Yeah, 7-7's one target, but the scary thing about going for Trog Feral Spirits is your opponent already has Feral Spirits on the board. So you're playing 2-3s into 2-3s, which
Flame
is
Tongue.
so vulnerable to buffs. Yeah, so Flame Tongue comes out. Now, suddenly, both of your opponent's 2-3s trade into your 2-3s and kill them for free, essentially. Because it leaves them at 1 health, and you don't run area of effect spells in the aggro shaman build currently.
Yep. And now the decision for Hoej. He can Lava Burst this and run one of the minions into it to just keep having the board, or he can also extend the board just by playing the Flame Juggler and ignore it 1 turn at least and go for face with everything else, because he does have a lot of damage potential in his hand.
Yeah, I really like ignoring it this turn. And the reason why you really want to ignore it is because you have to trade a minion into it anyway if you Lava Burst it. You have to trade one of your 2-3 dogs into it or the 3-2 into it anyway. So why not just let him make that trade for you, and then you can Lava Burst it the following turn and get rid of it.
Or just Lava Burst face and win as well.
Yeah,
because
that
that's
too.
11 damage in hand at the moment, and on board there's still loads and loads of damage.
Yeah.
So overloaded by 2, RDU only 3 mana open, a couple of choices there. Feral Spirit still the same problem as last turn. Tusker Totemic.
Yeah, I think it's time to go for another Totem Golem. That's what's going to dig you out of this mess.
And that's a Flame Tongue that does nothing.
Yeah, it's another great totem.
Yeah,
it's just
it's better than like well, Stoneclaw will be okay.
Yeah, it's just not the best totem, and when you're behind in the Shaman mirror, a good totem's not good enough. You need the best totem.
Definitely. Oh man, here you can actually clear the 9-5 with a Feral Spirit buffed by the Rock Biter. You can bolt the 5-2, kill the totem, and develop your 7-7. So a big board play. How much damage do you have overall? You have 6 plus 11. I kind of like developing the 7-7 and clearing the board. Just keeping your opponent behind at all times.
Yeah, I can't really complain about that. The most important thing, obviously, the board control. So whenever you're able to remove your entire opponent's board and play a 7-7, it sounds like a pretty good turn to me.
Definitely, even though you are losing a minion, but...
Yeah, it's only a 2-3, and overall you're developing plenty of stats on the turn, but
yeah.
Hoej taking a bit of time, trying to think if he wants to go all in on the face maybe, since he does have so much damage, but...
in theory, he can ignore the 9-5 because, alright, he's trading into it.
He's going with your play, except a little bit different. He values the taunt on the Feral Spirit a little bit more than the extra damage.
1 damage from the Totem Golem.
It makes sense. It makes it a lot harder for like RDU to develop a Doomhammer here, for example, because...
You will have to attack Wolf 2 times and take the damage.
Yeah, you would have to take the damage from attacking Wolf twice. Wolf also, just having 3 health is a bit harder to remove. A lot of Shaman is 3 damage bursts, but there's occasionally the Lava Shock in the deck and other sorts of things.
So a tough spot for RDU. Do you see anything he can do to start maybe coming back from this situation? Because he has a lot of cards in hand. But there is the 7-7, just look at him.
Yeah, it's hard to translate your cards into tempo in this matchup just because like Flame Tongue's only good if you have the board, and Feral Spirits gets traded into unless you have the board. So I think it might be time for one of those sort of last stand plays where you play Tunnel Trog and then Feral Spirits, and then put the Flame Tongue between the two Feral Spirits so that they have the ability to like trade up with the minions kind of efficiently here. Obviously the 7/7 gobbles them up a little bit, but you are able to inflict a lot of damage on the 7/7, and you inflict exactly 4, which is the perfect number so that your Rock Biters and Lightning Bolts can trade up into it efficiently.
Oh wow, abusive. Abusive can be useful here because you can pair it with the Lava Burst.
Yeah, you may even be Lava Bursting like the Flame Tongue Totem here to protect your
minions.
7/7 a little bit and take more favorable trades.
Yeah, I kind of like it, I think, because just attacking with the Sand Sand with Def 2/3 is a bit better. 5 health does require a Lava Burst from your opponent, and not like just as a normal Lightning Bolt. And also then you will protect your Feral Spirit as well.
Yeah, and you don't need burn damage in this matchup. You just need the board. So
Board,
whichever way
essentially.
is stickiest for you on the board is, generally speaking, the best way. If he wants to preserve minions more, he could think about maybe Lava Bursting the Tunnel Trog, Abusive Sergeanting the 1/1, and just eating 4 damage onto his 7/7. But I kind of like just...
What you can also do is Lava Burst one of the Feral Spirits, kill the other with the totem buffed by the Abusive, and then kill the
Flame
totem.
Juggler went face.
Yeah, so this means like he is actually attacking the 4/3 with the 7/7 here. And then face with the wolf, I believe.
He may put the damage on the totem, but yeah, face is seems reasonable as well. The only reason I think maybe you put the damage on the totem potentially there is because if the 7/7 dies, well, now 7/3, none of your minions trade cleanly into the totem, so eventually you're going to have to trade one of these 2 attack minions in the totem anyway, so doing it then makes some sense to me, but yeah, I think it's fine either way.
And here being RU, you just have to get rid of the 7/3.
Oh, yeah, that's priority
Lava
number
Burst.
1.
You basically Lava Burst for sure. There is no other way to deal with it. And unless now there's like basically you have to do it.
You basically have to.
Well, you can in a way play Finley, get a life tap, and get
Get the Lightning Bolt that way?
yeah, but it's obviously not the best.
We see him take this trade first, then play the Flame Juggler, so it's got maximum % chance to kill the Abusive Sergeant. He really needs a bit of good luck to come back. And he gets a little bit of good luck. All right, this may be turning around for him. Suddenly, the hand size of RDU is really starting to pay off here.
Yeah, and he still has a 5/5 taunt. Maybe he will get something good from Finley. And the 7/1 has to be answered here. You just cannot ignore such a big minion.
And Hoej getting a little bit punished for not kind of poking that Flame Tongue there.
Yeah, definitely. Just Lava Bursting the Flame Tongue or a Feral Spirit and preserving his... well, actually, still, if you attack with the 7/7 into the 2/3, you would lose it to the Lava Burst.
Oh, yeah. I'm talking about at the later stages when he went face with his Flame Juggler instead of hitting it into the Flame Tongue totem.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, because he could have put in 2 damage on that and then been able to remove it this turn. And now it's a little bit more awkward to get rid of that Flame Tongue totem. So he's in...
well, you have to, I guess, Lava Burst.
I don't think you're at the stage where you want to Lava Burst the Flame Tongue totem, but
oh, man.
Do you Lava Burst the 7/3? The 7/3 trades into your minion efficiently for you. So if you're Lava Bursting anything, I think it's the 4/3. And I would like to see the 2/3 poke into the Flame Tongue totem this turn so you can kill it the following turn with any of your 2 attack minions. Yeah, I really like Lava Bursting this because this eats a wolf and survives. The other one eats a wolf and is gone.
And it's gone, yeah.
Yeah.
And now, I guess you go face. Face damage still matters. You can still attack in the totem here, but he continues on face, yeah.
Yeah,
you would like to attack totem?
I really like hitting the totem. I'm the first guy usually to go face, but I really like getting rid of that Flame Tongue totem. Flame Tongue totem's so scary to me. It
triggers you.
It triggers me. Every time I see it, I want to poke it. Maybe it's wrong, but like obviously Hoej prefers going for the face play, but I really want to get that Flame Tongue totem removed off the board as soon as possible, even if I have to be kind of inefficient in the means of killing it.
Yeah, it is super annoying, so... but it's still alive. We'll see. There is a shapeshift possible. Lesser heal also.
The
the heal is
here.
super good, actually.
Yeah, RDU is able to...
survive. The Trog survives, basically.
And the Trog can start gobbling up these wolves, and then he can hide the Trog behind the taunt. Also hiding the Flame Tongue totem behind the taunt.
Whoops! How do you get rid of it now? Oh man, so you can't do anything here. You basically just totem up and thing.
Yeah, it looks like it. You got 1 card to play, might as well play it. And He can't get through RDU's things from below on board. He really needed a removal spell to punch his way through that. And
then Chalk just deals with the thing from below, and the thing from below stays on board.
Yeah.
And Finley deals with the 2-3.
They keep healing his minions too.
Yeah,
They keep
the board.
persisting, yeah. Suddenly, RDU has managed to somehow come back on this board.
Insane.
It's
This is
absolutely
insane.
insane.
That's insane.
And you never
How?
really ever see this happen in the Shaman Mirror. Usually the player with the board is able to just kind of take that board home and win the game with it. And RDU has somehow managed to get by. He didn't even have... He got really good Tuskars, which was very helpful. He was able to get the Mana Tide, which slowed down Hoej a lot. And he was able to
Got
get
him a
Flame
card
Tongue
as
Totem,
well.
which was able to slow down Hoej a lot as well.
Yeah.
Just forcing where 3 damage went. But he did not get the traditional way to come back, which is, of course, getting the Totem Golem. So
Yeah. Also, like, I think Hoej just missed the Flame Tongues on his side. Because
yeah, he didn't have any of the Flame Tongues to snowball his board hard enough.
Like,
yeah.
basically, his totems were useless. Like, him having totems on board didn't do much. And with one Flame Tongue, he will be able to get better trades with and Feral Spirits as well.
Yeah, he got a bit unfortunate, but you know, he was a bit fortunate in the beginning to even be ahead on board in the first place, though. So it goes both ways.
Yeah, definitely. And RDU played it really well.
Yeah.
Just making those choices, like coming even to the first turn when he went abusive into the Horse Rider to be able to contest the board from the very beginning.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily know if that even helped him in the match as it progressed, but it definitely was a gamble in the beginning. If Hoej didn't have a 2-drop, that would have allowed RDU to take the board immediately from the beginning. So
Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool play as well. Yeah.
And obviously, one of the big things was getting that Lava Burst to be able to deal with the 7-3.
Sure, yeah, he definitely needed a top deck there to be able to answer that 7-3, and you can expect him to do so, though. He had so many removal spells remaining in the deck, so it wasn't that unlikely that at that stage in the game he wasn't able to answer the 7-3 with any of his burn spells.
Definitely. It seems like this game is almost over now from Hoej. Not much perspective. Maybe if he gets a Doomhammer, but he used both the Rock Biters, so Doomhammer is not doing that much damage even, and that 7-1 Trog is scary.
Yeah, and RDU has full board control. He has the ability to just keep healing himself up as well. Hoej's one out is to, you know, burn RDU out over a few turns, and that's being taken away here pretty quickly. And it looks like RDU is not going to be respecting Flame Tongue, but instead be just setting up lethal. So I like the line of setting up lethal here. He's just kind of forcing Hoej to top deck something really good. Otherwise, he's just dead.
Definitely, and you can see why Hoej really hates this matchup.
Yeah.
It's upset, obviously. So last Shaman standing?
Last Shaman standing, and if there's going to be someone that's going to be a good last Shaman standing, it's RDU. He is an exceptional Shaman player. Every time I've seen RDU stream, he's always streaming either Shaman or Zoo. Yeah, every single time.
Yeah.
And he always, everyone asks him, like, why do you just play these cancer decks, blah, 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 blah. And his always response is like, I'm just going to play the best decks. That's what I need to learn how to play to win tournaments, and he's demonstrating why it's important to, even if it's not the most fun experience, and it feels like a grind sometimes, knowing all of the little teeny tiny details, making sure you're able to make every correct decision in the so-called simple face decks.
And there's a lot of those decisions.
Yeah,
the mulligan in the first couple of turns. You just like do one miss, like it basically splits players. Like players who do not know how to play those lists have like 55% win rates, and players who know exactly what to do can pump it up to 60+.
Yeah, and they win tournaments. Last Shaman standing. The guy that plays the most Shaman.
Oh man, and the last deck remaining for Hoej is his Cthulhu Druid. He will have to win versus the Shaman and then win versus the Zoo. So both aggro decks. Can he do it, Firebat?
He can. Will he? I don't know. It's very possible, though. Cthulhu Druid's one of the decks that can win against almost anything, and it can win against Shaman a lot of times. I wouldn't say it's favored by any stretch of the means, but
when
with
he
a
has
hand
Innervate,
like that...
Innervate and Wiregrowth, he might be.
He might be. Honestly, with a hand like that, I believe in the Cthulhu Druid, man. You're able to get the Wild Growth going, bump himself up to 4 mana, Innervate out the Dark Arakoa, which is just pretty solid stats for a taunt minion at 6 mana, and it also buffs his Cthulhu up a ton.
I would say those cards are essential to have a chance to fight back at least.
Yeah, for sure, but RDU did not hit a bad curve at all, though. He's able to go Coin Totem Golem, which overloads him, so then he fits the Argent Squire out so that he's unoverloaded for turn 3 this way and can hit the Feral Spirits out there on curve. So
yeah, it's pretty nice. And also, Think From Below is not a bad card itself. 5/5 taunt is pretty annoying for the Druid. So that's a Dark Arakoa on turn 4 into an Azure Drake or Druid of the Claw on the next turn.
pretty solid. Pretty solid. I imagine we see Feral Spirits come out here for RDU unless he finds something a little bit better. Does Abusive Sergeant change anything?
Not really.
No, it doesn't allow him to make the trades up. So
Yeah, so you can still go for Feral, you overload yourself, the next turn you'll be able to... Well, Abusive is still okay for turn 4.
the other line here would be like Totem Abusive to try and set up to play things from below the following turn. And I don't hate it. He's definitely thinking about it.
Well, if you play Feral Spirit, Arakawa is going to kill one of them and then be at 5 damage, so you can Abusive on whatever. Like either Totem Golem to kill the Arakawa or Abusive the Squire and then finish off the Arakawa with the Squire and the Feral Spirit.
Okay.
And then have Totem Golem go face, and you still have a 3-4 and a 1-1 on the board and a 2-1. So
Sure.
I think for specifically because you have double Feral Spirit in hand, you kind of want to play it earlier.
Get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense, yeah. The other line, though, he did definitely think about potentially making the Totem, using the Abusive Sergeant to trade up.
Yeah,
putting
definitely.
3 damage into it, and then using the 1-1 and 2-1, I guess. It just doesn't line up the trades as cleanly. So, yeah, I like RDU's decision to go with this line of play between the two choices there.
And now you have to make a decision whether you play. Do you play Druid of Claw or Outer Drake? And because you kind of want to have bigger board and stop the Shaman from being aggressive and make Shaman have ineffective trades, you go for the 4-6. You will have a chance to draw a card with Outer Drake later. Also, it does work with Brown Bronzebeard.
For sure, for sure. And now RDU has the ability to use the Abusive Sergeant to trade up the 2-3 in, but then he misses creating that Totem to lower the cost of things from below. But does he really even need to lower the cost of things from below?
He doesn't have to that much, but you know, I'm just looking at his Brown Bronzebeard, and that Brown Bronzebeard draw was pretty nice because
Yeah.
next turn the Disciple of Cthulhu can deal double damage, double buff Cthulhu, so he will have access though. Well, he would still have access to cards like Veclor, but it's still 4 damage, and then Azurjake maybe will draw 2 cards.
It's pretty crazy, yeah. We see RDU here going for the Abusive Sergeant, taking the trade like we expected to happen, and he's really on the back foot. That
Yeah.
Wild Growth into Innervate start, just so disgustingly strong, and that's really the strength of Cthulhu Druid is they sometimes get those Innervate draws, and they really are just built around snowballing off of them and capitalizing off of it. And
Yeah, now getting the Totem Golem killed for free and can trade into 2-1 as well. Cthulhu already in the hand, man. 4 more turns and
Yeah.
we're there.
And the Bran is protected behind the Druid of the Claw.
Yeah. Oh. It will probably not live till Cthulhu is being played, but the fact that Azurjake actually draws 2 cards is quite sweet.
Yeah.
So here, you cannot play Tasker Totemic and the thing from below in the same turn. If you go Feral Spirit and... Like, what do you do?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. His hand is just a collection of not very great plays for this turn.
They just Doomhammer, kill the bird, take 8, and then kill the 2-1 with the 1-1. That's so to use the Doomhammer.
Well, it's, I think, one of the better ways of coming back on the board. You hope your opponent just has nothing, and you can Doomhammer their stuff down and try and win that way. The downside of this play, though, the overload for 2 is really awkward on the following turn since your minions cost 5, 3, 3, and 3.
Oh my goodness!
Holy crap!
Hoej is really good at drawing the Veclor on turn 7, and this is the triple Emperor Veclor.
Holy smokes.
I would not blame RDU if he concedes right here, right now.
Yeah.
Not to mention Azurjake is still waiting for its time.
Yeah, Azurjake's about to draw 2 cards. And the brand behind 3 taunts probably will stick around till Cthulhu, unless the game's already over.
Are you sure? Would you Lava Burst that Brand Bronzebeard if you have a Lava Burst?
You kind of have to Lava Burst the 4/6s so you don't die. They hit
Yeah,
for 4.
I know. They do a lot of damage there. Oh man, and now Azurjake on top of it, and I believe RDU has no AoE in his deck, no Storm, no Elemental Distraction, just draw 2 cards. Double Counter chose. Wait, it doesn't copy a card? Or
No.
Nah, just kidding, just kidding. It's funny
Wow.
though. Well,
So how big is Hoej's Cthulhu? Because he could up it by 8 next turn, right?
it got buffed by 4 and 3, so it's
13?
13, I believe.
And then he buffs it by 8 to 21 and then fires the missiles twice. He could do like the first ever 42 missiles in a DreamHack
in
turn.
competitive play as well, right? Oh man, that would be so huge.
Yeah.
I want to see it. Come on. RDU, please don't concede.
Yeah, the hand's already rumbling. RDU has conceded. So, yeah, it seemed pretty unwinnable from that position for RDU, and it's just all the back of Druid drawing Innervate, Wild Growth, and a curve to go with it. And when that happens with the Cthulhu Druid, it really can beat any deck, and that's why the deck is so popular. It's strong in its own right, and then it just has the ability to get these draws that nothing can stop it.
Definitely. And Hoej will have to get those draws again because he's facing Rdu Zoo, the deck that he played the most. He's playing the Doomguard version. So is Hoej mulliganing whole hands again, or do you keep Living Roots to be able to deal with the Flame Imp? I believe you do keep Living Roots and mulligan everything away because Wild Growth, Innervate, those are the cards.
Wild Growth, Innervate are super important. Living Roots going second isn't as good as Living Roots going first.
Yeah.
So there is potential if you feel like you're so unfavored in the matchup to toss it back. I wouldn't totally hate it, but I prefer, like my personal preference is to have the Living Roots there fighting for the board. The odd part, it gets weird if your opponent opens like Voidwalker and then you go, I can't play this, and you hold it, and then they play out like not a Knife Juggler or not a Flame Imp, nothing that you can actually use the 2 damage effect on.
If they open Flame Imp, you just kill it.
Yeah. There's some situation, there's one 1-drop they have that if they open with, you can kill it.
Yeah.
All the other 1-drops they open with are kind of awkward because Argent Squire
like trades with
trades
both
1 with 1,
Villager as well.
Yeah, and then like Voidwalker's the only one that you're like, jeez. So yeah, it's usually worth keeping. I think it's pretty good, but I've seen players be like, well, you're so unfavored in the matchup anyway, you might as well go harder for the Innervate and Wild Growth because it's good, but it's just not good enough to make you win the matchup, so why keep it?
Definitely. I don't blame Hoej keeping the Living Roots.
I keep it too.
Yeah, I would keep it as well. And he didn't get the Innervate and Wild Growth, but he still has a chance to get them with Raven Idol because that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, what's the odds on that? Like 10% or something to find?
Decent.
Decent, yeah.
Yeah, with 3 cards. You might get offered Innervate and Wild Growth, and you have to pick which one is better for you at that specific moment.
That's how you play with Raven Idol, huh?
Yeah, mostly, That's what I get.
You just get the best cards, and it's really just tough to pick which one is better.
Yeah, oh man, they get the Wild Growth Innervate, what they do now.
Yeah.
But starting with those trends in the beginning, it's alright. And what do you think about Rdu's hands? Knife Juggler, he didn't get a coin, so Imp Gang Boss will be dropped on turn 3. And this turn, it's a bit weird. You have to play one of those 2-drops, which are not that effective as 2-drops, but still.
Goes with the Knife Juggler. I was tempted to maybe say even just playing Crazed Alchemist, since it doesn't have the best instant effect compared to the other cards, which have more potential instant effect. But, I mean, it is okay. You can eat up a Druid of the Claw sometimes with the flip there, so I don't mind Knife Juggler. It's also an immediate threat that your opponent has to deal with, so if they're trying to, like, coin a 3-drop and they have the 3-4 instead of having the 2-1 that's able to deal 2 damage, they're in a sticky situation. Probably have to Wrath Knife Juggler if they have it, or trade Hero Power and then not develop anything. Yeah,
talking about the Wrath, Hoej actually picked it up, so that's one of the better ways to deal with it. He's thinking what other options he has. Playing a minion would be an option, but then coin is too valuable with this kind of hand because you want to... Like, I'm looking at this Twilight Elder, and it is a big minion. It's a 3-4, but then you want to have the coin for a 5-drop when you draw into it, and if you don't get a 4-drop in the middle, somewhere there.
Well, I wouldn't hate going coin Twilight Elder and then trading the 1-1 into the 1-1, because you can expect your opponent's not going to be able to, juggle down the 4-health Twilight Elder. So most likely the Knife Juggler is going to have to trade into the Twilight Elder, but it's always scary with the Knife Juggler.
It is scary with the Knife Juggler, and also like the 3-drops are Councilman and the Gangwells, and you don't really interact with them with the Twilight Elder.
Sure, yeah, 3-4, not the greatest stat line for dealing with those minions. And 2 Imp Gang bosses for Rdu. Imp Gang boss, just one of the most powerful cards in Zoo altogether, really.
Yeah, it's just an amazing card. And there is a Wild Growth. Oh man, this is an awkward spot, because you kind of want to have a minion on the board, but on the other hand, Wild Growth is a good card to get. Like, what does it change? Like, if you Wild Growth here, you lose initiative, obviously, but you'll have 5, 6, up to 6 mana next turn.
Well, you could play almost your whole hand except the Cthulhu, so I don't think you really benefit from the mana right now. You don't have a 5 or 6 drop, so you'd then be hoping off the top of your deck. In a bad matchup, you have to take risks. So the options are either play your minion this turn, try and fight for the board, Raven Idol for something better this turn, or go with the Wild Growth and hope you find something off the top to play with your accelerated mana. And in this case, the Twilight Elder doesn't do very much of anything. And generally speaking, you got to expect your opponent's Imp Gang boss is going to get bumped up. So I think I might favor taking the risk, but Hoej being a really safe control-y player feels like
there is a small added benefit to the Twilight Elder as well, because it does buff Cthulhu by +1. If it stays on board for the next turn and it doesn't die, it can buff it by +2. And you obviously want to get to 10 attack to have Veclor active.
So from RDU's perspective here, he doesn't have great ways to deal with the Twilight Elder. He has the ability to flip his 2/4 into a 4/2 to be able to get the trade off and maybe develop Direwolf Alpha. It gets rid of it, which is important, but it doesn't develop the strongest board behind it. You're left with a 1/1 and a 2/2. So I think the main priority is having the strongest board presence possible as Zoo. So I would favor just playing the second Imp Gang boss and then going face and letting your opponent figure out how to kill 2 Imp Gang bosses efficiently, because that's a really strong board that's really hard for Druid to interact with. So
it makes a lot of sense, especially because for the next turn you might have a Councilman. Like, playing a Councilman here is a bit weird, but then on the other hand, you will be able to flip the stats of the Councilman next turn. So it will also create a big board. The problem is it will only have 1 attack this turn, so Twilight Elder attacking into it can deal damage. But I can see Councilman this turn as well. Like, next turn, Imp Gang Boss and also flipping the stats of the Councilman will be amazing. Like, even without flipping the stats, it's still a great minion.
Sure, yeah. Flipping the stats when it gets really high health is always really fun. Really high attack, then you flip the stats so it's got really high health.
Yeah.
And then you start building the attack up again. It gets pretty crazy and pretty funny sometimes. You see screenshots of it.
There is a swipe and a Starfall, so he is able to play one or another this turn.
He goes for the swipe here, able to potentially clean up a lot of minions here with Spell Power Swipe, clearing off the entire board.
Yeah, and not losing a minion. Wow, that Talnos. So Innervate was really good here.
And absolutely insane.
Oh man, this is the power of the Raven Idol, just getting the spell.
And Innervate. For you. Turns out Innervate's a pretty good card.
Yeah, and Wildgirl's just sitting there and doing nothing.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, I'll just let the Innervate do the job.
There are some stats that been like collecting and things like that for Druid games, and Innervate is way more important across the board in just general matchups than Wildgrowth is. By like a huge margin, Innervate is so much more important to have in the early stages of the game. Like, Wildgrowth on turn 2 is great, but having Innervate in the opening hand, way more impactful to your win rate than Wildgrowth on 2.
Nice. Yeah, it is a great card, but on the other hand, we talked about it, Druid doesn't have that great of a removal, so they play the class because of Innervate.
Because of Innervate, yeah, that's their big crutch, and it's really important.
Okay, so here, RDU in a bind. Like, you got the Doomguard, but if you play the Doomguard, even though you win the board, you do lose a part of your hand. Direwolf Alpha doesn't feel that great. You have a possible 2 for RDU taking his time to think about it, how to react with this board.
What I'd like to see him go for here would be maybe Imp Gang Boss and then flip the 3/1 to a 1/3, just so your Imp Gang Boss threatens to farm the entire board. Your opponent doesn't have any power on the board. Downside of the play, you leave up the Twilight Elder, of course, which
keeps buffing
Cthulhu. But you're able to develop 2 minions and start accumulating your board. He favors the tap. I can understand this as well, too. He's going to need a lot of cards to win the game here, and flipping a 3/1 that's going to die to the 2/4 into a 1/3 that doesn't die to the 2/4 isn't the most appealing thing in the world, even though you could potentially farm a lot of imps. It would walk into potentially Wrath or second swipe, so his line of play makes a lot of sense to me as well.
And you want to have options as well. But right now, Hoej gets the Nourish, which is a great moment because he has initiative on board. He doesn't really have to kill this Imp Gang Boss. And drawing free cards will give him much better plays moving forward. An alternative play is maybe just drawing a card first, and then you might decide if you want to ramp it with Nourish.
Yeah, you could get a lot of mana. Gaining 2 mana with Nourish, and then gaining another mana with Wild Growth, and then maybe playing Cthulhu pretty soon, but Cthulhu may not be large enough to justify that line of play yet. So I tend to favor cards more often than not.
Yeah, just drawing free cards, and then you have a swipe. You have double swipe in your deck because the swipe was provided by Raven Idol.
Yeah.
So just throwing it all and like trying to win with this game with Cthulhu as fast as possible is an option, but it's more risky than just drawing cards. And
oh, he's going for it. He's going for it.
Wow. Okay.
I'm interested. This is curious. He trades off the Elder though, so his Cthulhu's only going to be an 8/8 instead of potentially being a 9/9. So. Yeah, he has absolutely no value in his hand for the next 2 turns. He is going to need the top deck. Well, I guess next 1 turn, because he can Wild Growth the following turn to skip his turn 9, go straight to turn 10. So the next turn, though, he really needs to find a card off top that is impactful. And for the most part, his deck is just full of them.
Full of impactful cards, yeah.
Just full of them, yeah.
Not to mention Veclor, like he doesn't even want to get Veclor yet, but Dark Arcoas and Azure Drake's draw cards, Druids of the Claw, a lot of good cards.
Yeah, he's just really hoping he doesn't hit like Wrath. Innervate wouldn't even be too terrible because he could play
Beckoner of
Cthulhu.
Evil.
Yeah, Beckoner of Evil would be bad.
Cthulhu's Chosen is okay,
Yeah,
I guess.
it's
It's a 4-2,
Too
but
bad.
it doesn't really use the mana that you have. It doesn't use the full potential.
Disciple of Cthulhu would be a pretty subpar one.
Yeah, but you at least deal with the wolf or whatever. Like you have
Yeah.
a draw.
Yeah.
All right, so Hoej went ramp. Let's see if it works for him. He will be able to Wild Growth next turn and then play Cthulhu on the following turn. So he needs to get something for how much mana? He will have 8. For 5. So that Azure Drake will be perfect, probably.
Azure Drake would be splendid here.
Swipe
Wild Growth is
as
not
bad.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He could play one Wild Growth this turn and then hold on to the next one to be able to cycle it on the turn after that he plays Cthulhu. But his Cthulhu being only an 8/8 is it's a risk he felt he had to take, though. He felt like if he draws cards, that his cards are not going to be impactful enough. He didn't think he would had a higher enough likelihood of finding the swipes to control the board. He felt like he needs to just rely on getting a top deck the next turn and then being able to slam Cthulhu. Otherwise,
As fast as
spending
possible.
5 mana to do nothing against Zoo puts you far behind usually.
Definitely, definitely. So we'll see maybe the decision to not draw cards will cost him the game, but on the other hand, Cthulhu being played, dealing 8 damage across the board is quite nice, and then it is an 8/8 that has to be dealt with or ignored. But can you really ignore Cthulhu? Rdu actually is in a good spot now, even considering this Cthulhu coming down next turn. With if he decides to go for Doomguard tap this turn, he will have a decent board and is able to push damage. He can also just tap and play Defender of Argus and maybe whatever he gets, like as a 1-drop, but then play Doomguard on the following turn. He has options.
Yeah, and whatever option he decides, he's always got in the back of his mind what option is best against Cthulhu, because he knows Hoij's been holding on to that card forever. He saw the Nourish for mana, so he is 100% certain that there is a Cthulhu in Hoij's hand. So that's why I like this aggressive approach of Doomguard here. Instead of going for the Argus, if Hoej had went for draw earlier on and not for mana, then I think he would have went for the Argus there, because it's such a high-value card you don't want to discard. But because of the circumstances, he just wants to shove as much damage face as he can. I really like this, and be able to race down the Cthulhu as fast as possible. So
And the Cthulhu comes down, dealing some damage. It didn't even kill the Flame Imp.
yeah, he's got 9 damage on board, just trying to find the 10th bit of damage here, and that's going to be it, isn't it?
Yeah, that should be enough. I think there is, 11, 10? I can't see it because there's this wild...
It may be 14. Is that why he's tapping?
Oh, now he definitely
got
has
it.
definitely he has it. Oh, wow. So Rdu takes this series with his Zoo versus the Cthulhu deck from Hoej. Hoej did not draw the cards, but what would he even draw? Like, he would get the Wild Growth Wrath? Like, not really quality minions.
Not really quality cards, yeah. And you got to expect your opponents developing a lot of stuff after you've spent